to day 9 of the 10-week challenge, where we'll be trying to improve as much as possible at the game of chess with a planned and structured approach to play and study. Today we're going to jump into a game, but after the game we're going to take a bit of a different approach when it comes to analysing that game. Generally, in the past, what we've done is looked at the move that we made, looked at the move that is recommended from the engine, tried to understand why the engine is recommending that move, and move on. Today, instead, we're going to loop through that analysis multiple times until we can correctly say in advance for every move what is going to be recommended by the engine, and ideally we'll have worked out and can remember why that is as well. This might take a few loops through, but I think it's going to be a great way to really drill through the different situations we find ourselves in and help ingrain in our memory any learnings that we make, so that when we find ourselves in a similar situation in the future, we can make better moves where applicable. With that, let's jump straight into a game. I'm going to be playing 15-10 today, meaning we have 15 minutes to make all of our moves, but with every move that we make, we get an additional 10 seconds added to our clock. Okay, and straight away, we're against Mikey Blue Eyes, rated 11-14, so a bit higher than us. A few different responses to this. I'm going to go with the most straightforward, which is out to e5. He has moved out his pawn to control key central squares. We have done likewise. He's now brought out his knight, attacking our pawn. We need to defend that, and we're going to go with also the most common and straightforward. It's bringing out our knight, which defends our pawn, also controls this key central square as well. Expect a large amount of the time he's going to bring out his bishop, either out to c4, which would be attacking our weak pawn down here, or he may also come out to b5, which would be attacking our knight. Instead he goes for moving his pawn out to a3. Not sure the exact purpose of this move. I'd be interested to see afterwards if the engine likes that play. It doesn't seem bad, but doesn't seem to achieve a huge amount, but certainly might be missing something for sure. Okay, so we want to continue our development. We could move out our bishop out to here, which is a reasonable central square, although he can come out with his pawn to push us back. We can develop our knight, which will be attacking this pawn and getting us closer to castling, and I like that as our next developing move. He brings out his knight, defending this pawn, and now we would like to get this bishop out. Question is the best spot for it, and maybe that was the idea with this pawn. Is notice that generally we would like to get this bishop out to this nice diagonal here, but with him moving up the pawn, it allows him to later move up his second pawn. But I think we can just drop back our pawn, then we can potentially move out this pawn ourselves to create a pocket. So I'm not too concerned if he does decide to come out here. So we'll go ahead and do that. We're going to be ready to castle on our next go if we want. We can also move out this pawn either to here or here and create room to get this bishop out. We're going to go ahead and get castling completed. What move did he move there? He moved out his pawn. That creates the option for this bishop to come out and potentially pin this knight. I'm not too concerned with that though. I think we can move out our pawn to put pressure on the knight, and we can consider as well moving back our bishop if we wanted to release the pin. Still just knight pointing at this weak square here. If he doesn't move his bishop, this bishop in the next go, we could consider... he doesn't move his bishop, which pin does. So now the option of either moving back to release the pin. We could leave it there for now, or we could move this up, putting pressure on his bishop. If we move this up and his bishop moves back, the pin is still there, and we'll probably end up having to move our bishop back anyway. So I think moving our bishop back may be the best approach for now. Even move our bishop back, and then we can, in the next move... No, I still like putting pressure on. Let's force him to go back first, and then we can remove the pin by bringing down our bishop. It does take straight away. I think this is okay. We can simply bring out our queen. And now he has got rid of a dark squared bishop. So generally he will want his pawns to be on dark squares now, so they're not conflicting with his white bishop. And he has quite a few on white squares. Okay, so he brings forward his knight, who is attacking now our queen and is also attacking our pawn down here. So we would prefer to prevent that from happening. So moving across our queen here seems like a reasonable approach, so that if he comes down to take our pawn, we have that pawn protected. Is there anything else that this now active knight can do? He can come down here, put us in check, and we can capture with our pawn. Does hurt our king's structure, but I think we're well compensated by gaining a knight if he was to do that. Is there anything that can attack our queen if we move over here? It doesn't look like immediately there is. No, so it's also, you know, a pretty good central square for our queen to be on. So let's go ahead and do that. So from here, we would like to get this knight out. We are a little boxed in here right now, so we should consider that. Could move up our could potentially move up our knight. If he was to take, then we could take back, but then he can attack us with the pawns. Doesn't seem like the best move. We could consider bringing out our pawn here, bring the bishop over here, and it'll later be on this long diagonal, even though that diagonal is pretty congested right now. Take this pawn and remove his rights to castle, but then we're down 2 in material, and he can then just bring his rook across and effectively manually castle or double castle. Could bring out our rook. It seems like a reasonable approach. Could potentially bring out our pawn here, and if he takes, we take. The idea being to get this rook in the game and on a semi-open file, although it does create a bit of an opening for us to potentially be attacked. Have our king attacked. I think I like this. Assuming he's going to castle queenside, we can also consider then bringing our king over to this side, and then pushing forward our pawn and creating a route for our bishop to get out. We still keep this as an option. Okay, let's go ahead and try that. It's the move I'm most uncertain of so far, because like I said, we are opening this diagonal for our king potentially to be attacked. I do like it for now, but I'll be curious to see an analysis if the engine likes that approach, or if there was a better move available, or if it's even a mistake or something we're overlooking. When it comes to positions like this that we're less familiar with, we're obviously much more likely to potentially make mistakes. One thing we may have overlooked is if he takes and we takes and we take, he could have come out here with his knight and attacked us and forced us back. I think that would still be okay though. We would still have access to this hap open file, and he could probably just slot right back down to the A file. Sorry, the 8 rank. Okay, he chose not to capture us, so this certainly seems like an option for us now. He has to, or he doesn't have to, but he would very likely retake, because we'll be attacking this, and if he doesn't, we're also attacking. This would still be unprotected. If we take and he takes, what will be our next move? Still have the option of bringing knight up. Oh, we had consider bringing our queen across. Let's take for now and create that space. And now, while we consider our next options of potentially bringing over our queen, although that can be attacked, but it's bringing down the knight. I still like this. If he takes, then we take with our bishop. We're attacking this square. Of course, he can move him out, but we have a nice attack going here. If he chooses not to take, we have the options of either potentially taking his bishop. He has no bishops left. And or we have the option of taking here. You would take with the bishop. And now we can move over a queen without fear of being attacked. So yes, let's bring up. Of course, we still want to get out this pawn so we can get out our bishop. So let's see if we'd be okay exchanging, getting rid of this, allowing our queen to come over. Even though he can be attacked by this bishop in the future, we should have other safe squares that we can go to. It'll allow us to move up our pawn, potentially move out our bishop. Nice expansion if we were to take his bishop here, if he doesn't go for the exchange, he will almost certainly take back with his queen. We could potentially move up this pawn, allowing our bishop two options here or here, and we'd have been, if he hadn't moved his queen, we'd be double attacking. Okay, he goes for a different approach, which is bringing his bishop forward. Okay, so the idea being that on the next move, he can move his knight. We have the number of options for the knight, and then he will have a discovered attack. So we certainly don't want that to happen. It was one of the drawbacks of bringing out our pawn. It would seem like our best option is simply to move our queen This seems to be the safest square. Then he no longer has the discovered attack threat. Okay, I don't see any other great options. We could of course come down here and put him in check, but he can simply take. We don't have any other way to block this square except for with our rook, and we obviously don't want the rook to be taken by a bishop. So here are the options, and this looks like a safer square. Let's go ahead and do that. Need to pick up our pace a bit here. We're down to 6 minutes, while our opponent is has much more time. So unfortunately that will make our decision-making process not as efficient as it could be if we had unlimited time, but that is how chess works. Overall, I expect we are down at the moment in terms of analysis, although it seems like it might be pretty close. A nice advantage of taking this rook now is that he has to take with his pawn, because if he was to take with his queen, we'd of course take. That opens up this, and we can come in here and get him in check and plan an attack from there. Of course, he can go ahead and go for an exchange, but we would be okay with that, and the same thing still applies. If he wants to save the material, he has to take us with the pawn, and we have ways to attack his queen then. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Oh, actually this has him in check, so he can't just take our queen. So assuming he takes with the pawn, do we go ahead straight away and put him in check? Okay, so if we put him in check, his options to get out of check will be probably moving over here is the only way. He could, oh no, he can move down his knight. Oh, alternatively, we could just straight away take this pawn. Let's take the pawn. No, we can't do that. He could take with his queen. Okay, let's go get him in check. Like I said, we are down on time, unfortunately. Like this doesn't look like it's a great move, as we can simply push our pawn forward and threaten him, and now he's pinned. Seems like moving in here is his only option. Oh, I did overlook that. Okay. So I think we can move up our pawn and finally get this bishop into play. Then we can bring him out to this, potentially out to this square here, threatening checkmate. Of course, he has something to say for that, so he can bring the pawn forward, which I expect he will do. Or move the queen. That doesn't stop this from being a checkmate threat though. And but he can now bring his rook across potentially. Then we can come in here threatening to simply take the rook. can't move his knight straight away, because we just take the rook. Oh, he can come out here. Which would be threatening our pawn. While still defending the square. Seems okay, but we're now threatening his rook. He's still unprotected, and there doesn't seem to be any great way to get protection for him. So I think we can just go ahead and either go, yes, we can go here, and now we're threatening checkmate if he moves his knight. Threatening to take the knight, which is unprotected. We're also threatening to take his rook here. Can come down here and get us in check, but we can simply take, and then we're back to threatening checkmate. He can come across here, but then I think we just move our queen out of the way, try and find a safe square for it, and we're well up material. Okay, so he comes in. So yeah, I think we just take the knight. Is there anything we're overlooking here? I don't believe so. This pawn is now unprotected, as is this pawn. Potentially bring this rook into play. We'd also bring, actually that seems a nice move. Bring this knight into play. Okay, he's attacking this knight. If we come down with our bishop, we almost trap his rook. Although of course he can just but his rook can come all the way up here. We could potentially attack him here. Okay, we are running low on time. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. It looks to me like the only good square for his rook is right down here. He can't. We can potentially bring out our own rook, forcing an exchange. Okay, I think we can just take his rook now. That's a pretty good exchange for us. Okay, and start thinking of ways that we can get checkmate. We can protect this square. Oh yes, which we can. Bring out our bishop. Yes, I like this. Bring out our bishop. He can move his pawn forward, preventing this checkmate. But now his king's a bit even more open again. We can bring back our... Looks like it's going to be hard to get through this way. with this protection, so we're probably gonna move back our queen. Yeah, we're gonna move back our queen. Gotta watch out for that time again. 2 minutes 34. So you need to make much faster decisions. Try and look what we're going to do in advance. So we could do with getting this second rook into play, could help a lot. He's looking to bring his queen into play. Doesn't look like. Let's see what is his plan here with the queen. Not sure exactly. Okay, so he's bringing his own rook into play. I'm definitely not making the best moves here. I'm mostly just trying not to make mistakes with our time quite low. See if we can pick up a few 10 seconds without making any mistakes, even if they're not the best possible move. And pawn moves are a good way to pick up those extra 10 seconds. I'm not sure exactly what his plan is here. This bishop is completely boxed in. The rook is quite boxed in here as well. He can bring his queen out. He can take, and we need to be careful not to retake straight away, because he could gain a pawn. So I think if he takes, we move across our rook and then pin this pawn to the queen. And now we will take, and we're happy to go through some exchanges here, well up on material. And we'll gain some time with some fast moves. Some of these might not be the most efficient, but like I said, they help us gain time. They also simplify. Yeah, he took with the. All right, let's put some pressure on his queen. Again, just making some simplified pawn moves to save some time. Okay, he's bringing his rook across into play. Could bring our own rook. And potentially simplify things if he takes, go for an exchange. This rook is well protected. Now we can, actually this works out quite nice for us, depending on what move he makes next. Right now, if we came in here, we would be forcing him to bring his queen back. And then we have an exchange. And with +6 in material, it should be a pretty straightforward endgame, we would hope, even with us having much less time than our opponent. Okay, we're happy to go for that exchange. Alright, and now we're just going to start picking off some pawns. Let's take this pawn. And come in here next. I expect we could have got a win in this game much earlier. Our lack of time has forced us to make moves a bit faster than we would like, and not going for the most efficient moves every single time. Just going, like I said, kind of avoiding mistakes, or clear mistakes and blunders, and just keeping the advantage we have and seeing it through to the end game. So we're taking this pawn now. Of course, you can push him forward, but we're happy to just take this pawn. So now we just like to get one of our pawns up, promote to a queen, and then finish off the game with our queen and rook. Should be plenty. Alright, we will save our pawn. Happy to exchange. And now we can take out this pawn. And we can start pushing this guy up. Yeah, is there an easy path for this pawn? There might be. It's protected here from the rook. It'll be protected here, and then just need to protect this last square. Alright, it's decided to block us, but now we just keep pushing this pawn forward. Now we'll use this pawn so that this pawn has protection. They're just going to push this pawn, and if he takes then all he has is his king and one pawn. We'll take out the second pawn soon after and eventually get our promotion and close out the game. Okay, just gonna push. Yeah, he can take our rook now, but we can retake and then we would again, he can take, and we just get our queen. This is definitely taking longer than it should. Our endgame could do with some work in terms of being efficient, although, you know, again, we should still see out this game, just not as fast as we could. Now we could have just forced an exchange here, but I think going for this pawn now makes sense. Yeah, let's go ahead and exchange here, and then we'll have our queen. I'm a little surprised he hasn't resigned yet, maybe because we've been, no, there we go. All right, so we get the win. Now we're going to jump straight into that analysis. Just wait for the engine to complete. All right, should be good to go. Okay, he opened, we went with e4, that's fine, quick move. He attacked our pawn, we defended it with our own rook. So yes, seems like this is an okay move, nothing too wrong with it, just not the most efficient. We brought out our knight, the engine likes that, another book move from our opponent. Alright, here we brought out our bishop, which the engine doesn't mind. It does prefer bringing out our pawn. I guess that does threaten his central pawn, and if he takes, we can take with our knight. If he retakes, we can bring out our queen. I'm sure we have our queen out early, but it can no longer be attacked by this. So yes, that's a good move to consider in the future, although it doesn't mind the bishop move too much. Okay, so opponent moves his pawn forward. It prefers taking that. We decided to castle, which thinks it's fine. An alternative would bring bringing up our knight, I get it, so that we can threaten either taking and preventing him from being able to castle in the future, or coming in here and having a nice fork here and here. Okay, bring it out his bishop. We threatened his bishop to remove. He took and we took. All good so far. He's now threatening. I believe we came across here. Curious to see if that was. It does not like that move. The reason being, it can push his pawn forward, start to put pressure on. Let's see if he moves pawn forward here. Could we move back? Yes. Then I can push this pawn forward, with the idea being to push forward here and fork these, and we're quite stuck. Okay, so that's why this is not liked. Instead, likes coming back here, which we didn't actually consider, but still protects this key square, which we wanted to do. All right, let's see in the next round if we can remember that one. Okay, from here we push forward our pawn. We were pretty unsure of this. leaving to create space. And it prefers us simply bring back our knight, and then either he takes, and we take, and we get rid of all of that threat, or if he doesn't, we can take. If he takes, then we actually end up a pawn. Okay. Here we took. Let's just look at how he could have taken advantage of this. Okay, then again he could have pushed forward his pawn, putting pressure on here. And same idea remains. That he can potentially put forward here and fork us in the future. Or push forward his pawn and just put pressure on and force this queen to move and not beat. But our moving back our rook helps get rid of that. Okay. So we took, and here we would have been better off pushing forward our pawn, which again would have prevented this idea of pushing these pawns forward. He took, we're down our knight, which it doesn't mind too much to try and get out of this, but again just prefers preventing this attack here. It brings out its bishop. We moved our queen. We wanted to remove this pin. So another option would have been to take his knight, which puts him in check, and then he's forced to either move his queen or take with his pawn, and now he's hurt his structure, and now we can potentially even move across here. Oh yeah, now we can just get our queen out of safety. Okay. Brings back his knight. We take with that similar idea, which we could have gone for a bit earlier. So rather than just getting him into check, prefers us coming across here and double attacking this pawn. Okay, he makes a mistake. We don't take advantage of it. We push forward one. It prefers us push forward two. Is there a reason? He can't just take with his pawn? Oh, because that would be a mate in two. Oh yes, because we still have this threat. Oh, of course. But the reason we moved this here was to create this threat. So after we push this forward, he's forced to do something else, and then we can take his bishop. Of course. We had the same idea, just pushing one, but yes, we should have realized. Okay. Moved, we did move in. Moved his knight out. Move our queen, king. Move his knight. It's all good. So I'm going to stop our analysis here and reset and see if we can get to this point, remembering all of the best recommendations. We could go forward from here as well, but I feel from here we were in a very strong position. We also were low on time and knew we were making some mistakes. Let's one time run through in case if there was any big mistakes that we made that we should be mindful of. But we won't be doing this section in terms of trying to get every single move. Said we're happy enough if we didn't make any mistakes and kept the big lead that we had. Okay, here's a bit of one because we should have pushed forward. Yeah, and just gone for that. I think we later realized that we had a good run for this pawn. Isn't resigned. Okay, let's do a quick check, guess on what our score is, and then we'll go back to an analysis once more. I think it should be pretty good. I didn't see too many mistakes in there. It's like a few inefficiencies right at the end or something, but I'd be hoping for 85 range. 87. Okay, yeah, happy with that. All right, let's go back to our analysis and see if we can get this right. Okay, we moved out our knight, which is a book move. We moved out our bishop. Another option which the computer likes is bringing out this pawn. Oh, sorry, no, we didn't. We brought out we didn't do that yet. Getting ahead of ourselves. Okay, now we brought out our bishop. Another option computer likes to bring out our pawn, because if he takes, then we can take. If he takes again, then we take our queen, and we're in a pretty good position. Here we castled. And another option that the computer likes is bringing out our knight, so we can attack this in the future. So you can remember that next time. Yeah, we brought out our pawn, which it liked. We captured, which it likes. Here's where we made a mistake. By coming in here, we allow him to push forward his pawn, pressuring this, and creating a potential future attack on our queen. Instead, what we're trying to do is protect this square. It could have just brought back our queen. Okay, here we could have brought back our knight to free up this whole situation and prevent attack, or maybe even brought forward our pawn. We did not do that. Here again, we want to prevent this, so we could have pushed forward our pawn. And we made a mistake again. And here, finally made an okay move. To alleviate this pressure. It also likes potentially pushing our pawn forward. Trying to figure out what that achieves. Just creating space. I'm not sure exactly why. I think it would take us probably too long to figure out exactly why it prefers that. Allow this knight. Okay, so rather than, yes, so here we were pinned. Yes, we forgot about this one, that we could take his knight and put him in check, force him to take with his pawn before we move our queen. Okay. Now we did take, which is correct. And now we moved across our queen, but it actually prefers coming here and just double attacking this pawn. Now we push forward our pawn, threatening to bring up this bishop and go for checkmate. But what we could have done is push the pawn forward too and be attacking this while still threatening checkmate. We went this pawn, and yes. Okay, so here's the point we're gonna stop. Okay, let's run through one more. See if we can get every single one right this time. Let's go. Okay, we brought pawn, which computer likes. He attacks our pawn. We defend it with the knight, which computer likes. He brings out the pawn at the most efficient move. That's best. We bring out our knight, which the computer likes. He brings out his knight. We bring out our bishop. It's a reasonable square, but another good option to consider is bring our pawn forward, so we can potentially gain better control of the center. We castled here. Another option is to bring our knight out, the idea being to be threatening to this square. He attacked, we simply punched our pawn forward, which is all good. We recaptured, which is all good. Here we brought our queen across. This is a mistake because he can bring his pawn forward and threaten our bishop, and then in the future bring this pawn forward and threaten our queen. Instead, to protect this square, which we're trying to do, we should just move back. He brought his bishop out. We would like to alleviate the pressure that's on this king here, so bringing our knight back to take this knight out is the best option. Here we'd still like to prevent him attacking this bishop, and bringing a pawn is a good way to do that. Okay, here we elected to... Your pawn is still like moving this pawn forward. Oh yes, I guess to again prevent this attack. Is that the idea? Yes, I didn't notice that last time. So moving this forward prevents... we failed to see this throughout the game. Okay, we elected to... Oh yeah, he brought his bishop forward, threatening to put a pin. We move our queen, but a better approach would have been taking the knight, forcing him to retake with the pawn. Now I believe we did take, which is good. We brought across our queen here to put him in check. We could have just brought off queen and put more pressure on this pawn it prefers. And now we push forward our pawn, the idea being to threaten this and this for checkmate. What we could have done is pushed forward 2 and attack this and still threaten this and this for checkmate. Okay, and then get a few good moves from here. And that's where we're gonna wrap it up. Looks like we have drilled this enough that we've got it ingrained. Alright, let's just do one last go. Pawn moves out, knight moves out, and moves out. Move our bishop out. Another option would have been pushing our pawn forward. We castle. Another option would have been attacking the square. We bring our pawn out. All good. We capture. We go here, which is a mistake because we can be attacked. We can move down here is much better. Push forward our pawn to prevent him attacking our bishop is the next best move. Same idea again, moving that forward, or potentially bringing our knight down, attacking that. Same applies again, would have been better. Yeah, this isn't the worst move, but this still prevents this stack. There. So here we were pinned. We decided to move our queen. Better approach would have been capturing his knight, forcing to recapture with his pawn and hurting his structure. Now we did take, all good, and we came across here. Another option would have been come across here and putting double pressure on this pawn, and then from here we push forward 1, we should push forward 2, attacking this. Okay, there we go. That's what we're going to do for analysis from now on with games. It'll take longer for the analysis part, but I think, like I said, it's a much better way to drill through the positions, and then when we find ourselves in similar positions in the future, we should be able to ideally remember what the best moves. In addition to this, before I play any games tomorrow, I'm going to rerun through all my games from today with the same process again and see if I can remember what the best moves recommended by the engine are in the first go, and if not, take as many goals as it needs. Okay, that's it for this session, and we'll be back again likely later today or tomorrow with some more games and analysis. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.